The herpes virus is the second important and common virus that is known to human diseases. All members show latency and cause recurrent infection. Now, viral DNA forms episome and remain associated with the host, that means a human genome. And it can start the outbreak when they find every single environment in favor for their outbreak. Clinical compositions, clinical complications of latency and recurrent infections become more severe with advancing of the age, and if there is any cancer chemotherapy is going on or other conditions that compromise our immune defense, like situations like AIDS where our immune defense is already very low and feeble. These viruses will break through the dormancy and can start the lytic phase. This is also very common and serious opportunists among a patient, as I mentioned. The structure of herpes virus. If you look at the herpes virus structure, it is, as you can see, the large enveloped icosahedral double-stranded DNA virus. So literally this particular sentence tells us all about the structure of a virus, because we have talked about the viral structure in the previous video lecture. Large virus, first of all, it's an enveloped virus. It has an icosahedral geometry for its capsid, and it carries double-stranded DNA as a genetic material. But this herpes virus replicates within its nucleus. So this is the nucleocapsid, where we have the icosahedral. You can see this is the icosahedral structure. This icosahedral is the capsid, and inside of which we have the double-stranded DNA, and we have all the cell membrane outside. But in between the cell membrane, which contains spikes, we have surface glycoprotein layers, like surface glycoprotein GD, GB, GH, GL and GC. But apart from the spikes, also in between this capsid as well as the cell membrane, a region which contains tegument proteins, as well as these tegument components hold it's like a jelly like coating that prevents the capsid as well as the double-stranded DNA inside the virus to be protected against the outside damage. So to kill this virus, you cannot just destroy the envelope, you need to go inside and destroy its genome. This herpes virus is of a very large family. We have 8 intact humans, 8 of them infect humans. HSV1 to HSV2, VHZ. So HSV1 herpes simplex virus 1, HSV2 herpes simplex virus 2, VZV varicella zoster virus, CMV cytomegalovirus, EBV Epstein-Barr virus, HHV6 herpesvirus 6, which is known as Roseola, HHV7 herpesvirus 7, and HHV8 herpesvirus 8. So these are the 8 viruses from this herpes virus family that can infect human, and they are associated with totally different type of diseases. As you can see, the human are susceptible to 2 varieties, HSV1 and HSV2. Usually HSV1 leads to formation of lesions on the oropharynx, cold sores, fever, blisters in early childhood. So that's HSV1. But for HSV2, lesions on genitalia, possibly oral, occurs in ages from 14 to 29 and can be spread throughout, and it can be spread without the visible lesions forming. So the difference between the two: transmission for HSV1, close contact, usually of face, while HSV2 is through sexual, means STD, sexually transmitted disease. Latency for HSV1 occurs in trigeminal ganglion, while HSV2 occurs primarily in scleral ganglia. So that's the difference. In case of HSV1, it's in trigeminal ganglia infection. In case of HSV2, it's scleral ganglia. Skin lesions on HSV1, they generally form skin lesions on face and mouth, while HSV2 on internal external genitalia, thighs and buttocks. Complications for HSV1, white loose among personnel working on oral cavity, and HSV2 among obstetric, gynecological and personnel. Neonatal infections for HSV1 causes up to 30% of the cases, but for HSV2 causes most of the cases through the contact with the birth canal, which is already been infected. So HSV2 is mostly going to be infecting its spreading the disease by infecting its children during their neonatal phase. Epidemiology: the transmission by direct exposure to secretions containing the virus, active lesions most significant source, and genital herpes can be transmitted in the absence of lesions, even though we cannot see the lesions outside. That doesn't mean that person cannot infect. Obviously that person can infect. HSV multiplies in sensory neurons, moves to ganglia. As I said, HSV1 enters fifth cranial nerve, and HSV2 can enter lumbosacral spinal nerve trunk ganglia. So lumbosacral spinal nerve trunk ganglia can be infected by HSV2. So as you can see in this picture, the transmission of HSV1 into the fifth cranial nerve, and for HSV2 in lumbosacral spinal nerve trunk. Epidemiology in the other round: recurrent infections are also possible by HSV. Recurrent infection is triggered by various stimuli like fever, UV radiation, stress and mechanical injuries. And newly formed viruses migrate to body surface, producing a local skin or maybe a membrane lesion. But although it can recur, but the recurrent infections effectivity and the virulence is not that high as that of the primary infection. Type 1 herpes simplex virus in children and adults. We call it herpes labialis. Fever, blisters, cold sores, and most common recurrent HSV1 infection. Vesicles occur on mucocutaneous junction of lips and adjacent skin, as you can see in this picture very clearly. Itching and tingling prior to the vesicle formation is always a symptom. Lesion crusts over in 2 to 3 days and then heal itself. Herpetic gingivitis. Herpetic gingivitis, an infection of oropharynx in young children, fever, sore throat, swollen lymph nodes. And herpetic keratitis occurs, we also call it ocular herpes, inflammation of the eye and then gritty feeling in the eye, conjunctivitis, sharp pain and sensitivity to light, all can be infested. So herpes cannot leave any of your vital organ of the body. It can attack your nerve, it can attack your genitals, it can attack your eyes and obviously skin and the portions of your mouth. So it's really very dangerous. While in type 2 herpes, as I said earlier, genital herpes. And another big important fact about the genital herpes is it's kind of incurable. Still, there is no much cure available for it. Starts with malaise, anorexia, fever and bilateral swelling and tenderness in the groin. Clusters of sensitive vesicles on the genitalia, perineum and buttocks. urethritis, painful urination, cervicitis, itching, vesicles ulcerate. So, recurring bouts usually less severe, triggered by menstruation, stress, and concurrent bacterial infection. All these things are much common during the recurrent infection phase. But in the primary infection phase, it's directly very much painful and it's very shameful for social conventions as well. Herpes of the newborn. HSV1 and HSV2 both can be there, but mostly HSV2 because of its genital transmission. Because if the cervical canal is infected with HSV2, then this is potentially fatal for the neonate and for the fetus as well. The infant contaminated by the mother before or during the birth, and it have hand transmission by mother to infant, an infection of mouth, skin, eyes, and especially central nervous system. Preventive screening of pregnant women, delivery by C-section if outbreak at the time of birth, it can somehow reduce the risk of the neonate to have that same infection. It can be reduced. And there are miscellaneous herpes infections like herpetic whitelew. Herpetic whitelew, HSV1 or HSV2, can penetrate a break in the skin and can cause a localized infection, usually on one finger. Extremely painful and itchy at the same time. It seems like kind of rotting your skin. You can see this picture in the right hand side. While HSV1 encephalitis, rare, and it's very rare but most common sporadic form of viral encephalitis in US. Okay, so those with underlying immunodeficiencies are prone to severe and disseminated herpes, but this generally occurs to AIDS patients because normally a healthy individual can easily fight against the infection because of this infection's portal of entry and the strategy of infection. But if a person which is immunocompromised due to AIDS or with the help of any other medication, immune medication is going on, for those person this disease is severe. Diagnosis, treatment and control of herpes simplex. Vesicles and exudates are typical diagnostic symptoms, scrambling from the base of the lesions showing giant cells. Cultures and specific tests or diagnosis: severe disseminated HSV. Direct fluorescent antibody test is also available to check the presence of the antibody specific to confirm the infection. Treatment: acyclovir, okay, valacyclovir, and other topical medications. Topical medications to prevent the itching and reduce the pain from the blisters on the skin because it mostly attacks the epidermal cells. While acyclovir, famciclovir, valacyclovir are the antiviral drugs that can kill the viruses, that can prevent the viral life cycle. But taking of this acyclovir or taking of these antiviral medications are not that helpful and beneficial after the infection is caused. So one person can take these antivirals to prevent the viral attack and to prevent the onset of the viral infection in the very first time. So the dosage of antiviral treatment is also provided in this picture, where acyclovir for adults 400 milligrams 3 to 5 times per day, and prophylactic dose 400 milligram twice daily. Valacyclovir 500 milligrams 3 times per day. Famciclovir 250 milligrams 3 times per day. For prophylactic dose is always kind of a reduced form or is almost a similar form. For children, acyclovir may be given 15 to 12 milligram in milligram per kg based on the weight of the children in divided. Okay. Now, topical antivirals are also be used. Topical gels can also be used, like ganciclovir gel, 5 times per day. Better dosing and surface toxicity profiles versus, okay. And trifluridine, 1 drop every 2 hours, reduced to 5 times per day after 3 to 7 days. Okay, so this can also be done. So ganciclovir gel works kind of fine in 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 controlling the blister.